Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the European Crossover webinar. And we have seen the euro pair back a little bit further after posting a gravestone doji with yesterday's close. So it has gone and pulled back a bit. We'll even take a look here at the cable. Same thing here. It's just paired back a bit. Actually tagged this. You can see right here, this 3903. It's after it actually had pushed above yesterday, above 40, almost to that key area here. Look at that 40.15 here. Just about tagged. It came up, I think the high was only 40.08. And certainly we did see a pullback in equities yesterday, and certainly a roundabout move with gold. Looking into today, as far as the data that we did get UK core PPI and CPI that came out about a couple hours ago. And let's take a look here. Then coming into the US, that's going to be it for data that I see. And then coming into the US session, we will have Canadian CPI. We do have Bank of Canada. That'll be out at 10 a.m. Eastern. And then for the U.S., we just have the crude oil inventories. It looks like that's about it that I see here. Bank of Canada, we'll have a press conference. That'll be at 11 a.m. Eastern. We'll see how much of an impact that has. Talking about Bank of Canada. And bear with me. And Bitcoin has held up a little bit better. I mean, it hasn't rallied, but I'll tell you what, I would expect it, as I indicated, to go on and pull back. But we actually held up okay considering the knockdown that Bitcoin had gone and seen. And bear with me, just checking off something here. And the euro in the futures, I'm just doing an update here. There we go. We're going to take a look where the euro is and the cable in regards to with the futures. Let's just go ahead and jump into that screen. So you can see here, looking at the cable. Now this is on the 30-minute, and this is on the 6B, which is trading at 39.38, which the cash is at 39.35. So only a 3-pip difference. And then in the 6E, we're trading at 20.23, and cash is at 20.10. So that has narrowed. Remember last week was a 16-point spread. It's now only a 13-point spread. But you can see here where we've gone and paired back. Yesterday, you can see here yesterday on the 30-minute, we had a very nice gravestone doji right here on the 30-minute. That opened the door for us to move lower, and that's after we hit that pivotal area. Remember on the cash on that 2073 coming across, very key area. And you can see here the cable was a little bit of mixed bag, and there wasn't anything definitive to say, oh yeah, that's what ran out of gas. But as I mentioned on the cash, on the daily, that 40.15 was key. I think the high was 40.08 in the cash. And you can see we've, like we may have found a little bit of a bottom. You can see here on the opening range, which I do a little bit of a variation on for FX. And what I go with is the opening 5 minutes. As I've said before, is with the opening range, it's generally may sound crazy, but it's the opening 30 seconds into the U.S. session. And you may think it sounds crazy, but when you see tens of thousands of contracts trade in the E-mini, and then usually with the NQ, you'll see 15, 20,000 contracts, or maybe around 10,000 contracts trade just in that opening 30-second burst, then you can see where it does make a big difference. And you see how these markets will trade back and forth in that opening range. Where we break out either to the upside and we come back to test that same upside, we said it becomes support, or vice versa, and you'll see the market make a difference with that. We did see a pretty good pullback in equities, as I mentioned before. Here's that move down in the Nasdaq. Actually came down here in support, bounced, but the pressure remained throughout the day or most of the day, and then same thing pairing back. And we can see here, this is actually has the S&P with the profile, but that's during the RTH, so regular trading hours. Like we've touched on that a couple of times. I didn't spend too much time on it, but I do go and use it. I'm not, like I said, certainly no expert at all. And I look at it, I just have my own basic way that I try and incorporate the use of the profile. As I said, looking at on that same day's activity, looking at the point of control, or what's throughout the days, the developing point of control, and then looking at the initial balance area that we've discussed before. But then I'll look at that as we break to new highs or lows. Other prior days point of controls or their initial balance range where the market may find support or resistance depending on the way it's breaking. And use it in conjunction with some of the other technical levels I look at. Really does make a big difference. I really don't use moving averages that much anymore because you see most of my movement is, well, the way I look at it is more focused intraday. I will look at, like I said, when we look at it on a daily, if we're looking at a 20 or 50, but pretty much what I'm using anyway to kind of get a gauge for that momentum is not only the opening range, but also the VWAP. And I'll go and look at the same day VWAP as well as the, which is going to be the blue line that we're looking at. See here, the same day VWAP, right from the opening of the U.S. Open. In this case, with the FX, it's going to be with the European Open, and then I go in and take a look at the electronic session VWAP. So I have that in gray. That kind of gives me a little tilt, almost like a moving average, in the sense I watch how the markets will go in and break, and then using that in conjunction with the profile. That's I find it to be more beneficial for me. But anyway, nonetheless, let's go and take a look where Bitcoin was. Just want to touch on that a little bit. Um, we held a little bit better than what I thought so far. Not bad. You can see here that ended up holding that 53 area here. We pushed back up. But we're kind of giving way. And once again, I think overall, we're still going to break lower. My take is we're still going to go and make a move to, I said 47, 992 actually coming in right there. Just under 48 by a hair. Taking a look at gold. Gold's actually held up fairly well overall. Look at that. We saw that pullback. Yesterday we had support for 1756. Well, we didn't even touch below 1760. So it held up in this area and made a run back in here. And then not ultimately, but it looked at crude the way it fell back. We had a resistance at 64.27 bias chart resistance. The market topped out, I think, around 64.38. And I'm not sure what happened with crude. Yesterday was pretty busy enough with the equities, but we really broke them pretty hard. So that's where we stand here overall. Bear with me. So we're going to move into the analysis. Let's go and get started there. So the euro tagged the pivotal area of 2073 yesterday. You can certainly see that. I'm going to pull this back so you can get a better look at that. You can see, and I discussed why I considered that a pivotal area yesterday, and certainly that did make a big difference. So the euro tagged the pivotal 2073 area yesterday. We had found offers paring back and finishing the day with a gravestone doji. You can see that right here. Support on Wednesday will be 1991 with resistance at 2057. From there, we're going to move into the cable. So cable found offers just above 140, a hair below that major level of 40.15. You can see that. The pair pulled back 75 pips off the high. Resistance for Wednesday will be 39.88 with support at 38.89. We're within that range there. And I gave it a little bit more room than I would have liked to the upside, but I thought we'll allow for that in case it wanted to hang around there for just a bit. I thought that was being a little bit too generous to the upside at 39.88, but so be it. Let's go on and move into the Aussie dollar. So the Aussie dollar blew stops on Tuesday above 78 cents before selling off to close below the 77.58 area. You know, we've had this area all last week, and the key thing yesterday I was going to say is if we closed above it, we still have yet to close above it. But certainly looked like it was in pretty bad shape yesterday, but they sold them off quite a bit. Certainly that sell-off in equities certainly helped push that down. Resistance for Wednesday will be 77.58 with support at 76.92. And I don't know why this thing keeps doing this. I remember yesterday we talked about that, and same thing. We had 77.93, and I'll be doggone. Really upsets me why I keep saying 77.39. I'm going to save this expletive thing. You know what's going on here. Let's go on and move into the dollar yen. So the dollar yen continued to languish despite a rally to weekly level of 857. The pair finished just above 108. Resistance for Wednesday will be 838 with support at 778. And looks like we actually made new lows here. We got to 785. And onto the cash dollar index. The dollar index found a modicum of bids. Let the bulls dance, because you know those people that are going to be saying, "Oh, I see now the dollar's really coming back." Yeah, look, this reminds me so much of even a blind squirrel will find a nut every now and then. Please, people, let's not make a big deal about this. We had the cable rally on literally a parabolic move 2 days before, and the euro just blazed all the way up to 2073. The the pullback from those extreme levels. I mean, come on, let's not make a big deal out about it. I mean, look at this thing. This thing has been falling down like a you know what in a well, and now it comes up. And so I hope we don't see any. Like I said, that's where I was a little bit of sarcasm. Let the bulls dance. But this dollar has been a turd all the way. So anyway, nonetheless, 91, 90.97 for support. 91.47 for resistance. From there, let's go and move into the into Bitcoin. With Bitcoin on the daily, on the 2 hours, just as fine actually there. So Bitcoin managed to hold the 53,000 area for the day. Resistance for Wednesday will be 58.63 with support at 54.335. Obviously still bullish. Moving on to the SPOOs. There's a SPOOs on the 2 hour chart. So the SPOOs broke down on Tuesday, pushing through levels of 41.42, 41.32, 22, and even down to 41.15. Before finding mild short covering. Support for Wednesday will be 41.06 with resistance at 41.02, 41.42. And take a look at the NASDAQ. Pretty good pullback here in the NASDAQ. We'll take a look at the daily, see if we're hitting any key levels. That 1307.07 was pretty key, and we actually got down there. Look at that. Look at that. And that was actually the bottom. I did share that in the chat yesterday, an area there for them to tag, which is 13.707. I actually ended up sharing the chart. I remember posting the chart. So support's going to be 13.707. We'll look for that to hold. And on the upside, uh, 13.809. Moving on to crude oil. So crude oil saw a stark pullback from the bias chart resistance level of 64.27. I think the high was pretty close here. We had actually our bias chart resistance was 64.24, and the high for the session was 64.38. So not bad. Boy, did we fall apart to the tune of almost $3. Chris saw a stark pullback from the bias chart resistance of 64.24, falling back to a $61 handle. Resistance for Wednesday will be 62.94 with support at 61.65. And on to gold. So gold defended the mid 1760 area. We're on to that. Look at that. Held up really well considering this big runoff we had, and then we kind of made this dip back in here. Thought we might pull back down to about 1756 and then move back up. But we've actually held up fairly well, and we're still up in this upper region. But once again, gold defended the mid 1760 area, not able to dip sub 1760 before rebounding to 1780. Support for Wednesday will be 1768 with resistance at 1785. And Mira wants to take a look at the platinum and the palladium. Let's just go move into there. So we did see this pullback here in platinum. But we've actually managed to hold this and defend this area overall right now, which is the 1189. We talked about that yesterday too, as that area, which would be key. I think we even talked about the market could dip below it, but as long as we can close right here, it'd be key. Well, we've done just that. Key thing for the market right now is to get above 12 right there, that close of 12.12. If we can do that, that opens the door for us to go back and challenge up to these highs here, 1246. If we can get a close above that. Support on the downside is going to be right there at 1177. But we're doing pretty good that we've held so far here. Because we've actually made a move this here. So that's going to be key. Once again, it's 1189. But as long as we can close above it, that really keeps this market. Now we're mixed bag in it. You can see we're right in the middle of this whole bigger range right here, which actually comes down to about 1131 to the upper portion, which is 1246. We're just in the middle of it. But if we can defend this level here today, 1189, that'll be good stuff for the market. Taking a look at palladium. Remember we kept this Fibonacci here, and the market's done pretty well. Look at this, how we're holding back up here. Gonna be huge if we can close above that positive closing amount. 2811 is going to be huge, and it's actually on its way doing very well. If it does that, then the next target appears to be the 161%, which is right there at 2897. With an immediate test opening the door for the all-time high, which is 2851, or this move here. But that would be the target. And back to the euro dollar. And there's the bias chart for the day. And with that, we'll go on and close this out. We'll see you in the chat room. And thanks for joining us here on the European Crossover webinar.